Welcome back to Unbend Your Brain, Cognitive Biases in Litigation and Arbitration, powered by the law firm of Massari Olbrich. My name is Till Olbrich.
And I'm Philipp Köpsel. In the last episode, we were talking about framing and loss aversion and how people take greater risks to avoid losses, right? Litigation and arbitration provide a very natural framework for presenting financial prospects as either gains or losses. The plaintiff often has the choice of either accepting a certain amount as a settlement or continuing the litigation in the hope of obtaining more through a judgment. The defendant, on the other hand, may need to choose between the alternative of paying a certain amount to settle the dispute immediately and the chance of being ordered to pay less than the settlement offer or perhaps nothing at all. Plaintiffs therefore choose between the options that represent gains compared to the status quo, while defendants choose between the options that represent losses. All things being equal, what will be their preferences?
As you recall, as human beings, we feel losses and the threat of losses much more intensely than the hope of gains. And we are therefore much more willing to take risks in order to avoid losses. This means that defendants would typically choose to continue their proceedings, which is the riskier option. Plaintiffs, on the other hand, are typically more likely to prefer settlement, the risk-free choice.
Got it? It's not easy. Let's take a look at this experiment from the US using concrete numbers. In this experiment, those participants acting as plaintiffs had two options. One, accept a settlement of $200,000. Or two, continue the action for which they had a 50% chance of winning $400,000. The expected value is the same, of course. The other participants, the defendants, seemingly had the same options. They could either pay $200,000 to settle the case immediately, or they could continue the proceedings with a 50% risk of losing $400,000 if the judge decides against them. Same options, but a different natural framing. What happened? 77% of plaintiffs preferred the settlement, but only 31% of the defendants. A striking difference, but one that is not rational.
By the way, the irrationality will often get even worse when you factor in the overconfidence bias. We talked about this in another episode, overconfidence. In the experiments, the probability of winning or losing was fixed. In reality, of course, lawyers will assess this probability. And as we've seen in our episode on the overconfidence bias, link in the show notes, they systematically overestimate these probabilities of winning.
Anyhow, back to framing. In our experience, the framing effect can be a powerful tool, particularly in negotiations. Most outcomes of a dispute or a negotiation can be framed either as a loss or a gain. It is also important to be aware of the framing effect when advising your clients on settlements or on whether to appeal an adverse decision. And of course, if you're an arbitrator, judge, or a mediator, and you want to help the parties to reach a settlement, mastery of the framing effect gives you many ways to nudge the parties into this or that direction.
There's also a psychological phenomenon called attribute framing. You're gonna love this. Put simply, the words, the attribute we use to describe a situation can impact perceptions of what has happened. Take this one study, for instance. All the participants watched the same film of a traffic collision, two cars hitting each other. And after they've seen the film, they were asked to estimate how fast the cars were going. But the way the question was asked was just slightly different for each of the separate groups.
How fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other?
How fast were the cars going when they collided into each other?
How fast were the cars going when they hit each other?
How fast were they going when they contacted each other?
The perceived speeds increased the more violently the impact was described. When they were asked how fast they were going when they contacted, it was an estimated 50 kilometers per hour. With the word hit, it was 54 kilometers per hour. Collided, 62 kilometers per hour. Smashed, 66 kilometers per hour. That's a difference of 16 kilometers per hour between contacted and smashed. Word choice is a frame because of the images the words create. Word choice framing also influences memory of the details of an event.
In the same studies, participants were later asked if they had seen broken glass at the accident site. The catch? There was no broken glass whatsoever. But a stunning 47% of those who heard the word smashed believed they had seen broken glass, compared to just 16% of those who only heard the word hit. This is pretty powerful stuff, attribute framing. The choice of your words will matter when you question witnesses, when you write briefs, when you argue your case in front of a panel of judges or arbitrators.